Now, this story that I'm going to share is a little more disturbing in nature because this one isn't from me. This one's from my kids. Like I said, as they got older, the activity in the house started to pick up, and they themselves started to notice things that I haven't even noticed before. Now, our house is a modest size house. It is 3 bedrooms up on the top floor, and then there's a basement in the bottom. And the oldest boys, they shared one room for the longest time. And it wasn't until they gotten older when we moved them into 2 separate rooms. And the room that we moved my oldest boy into was the room that I and my husband originally shared, which is in the front of the house, and that's the one that has a French door, 2 French doors opening into it. Now, when they shared a room, the only window to the room it was kind of high up on the wall. There was, when we bought the house, the people that owned it before had put one of those window units in, and they kind of boxed up the window to house that window unit and made it to where that when we removed the window unit, it just left a smaller window. And they had bunk beds, and every night they would complain and cry that they're seeing something out their window. And now, the way that the house is designed, it basically is their room is on the second floor because, we have a basement, and then the layout of the land is it kind of slopes down. So there's no way anybody or any animal can peer through that window. And my youngest at the time, the only way that he could describe it is he would describe it as funny creatures, and he would cry and he would say funny creatures were looking in on him. And it got to the point where their dad, my husband, he would have to hang up extra blankets just to block every inch of light or anything coming from that window to where they couldn't see anything. And that was the only way that we could get them to really sleep at night. And then when we finally moved them apart and moved my oldest to his own room in the front, then his story got worse and got creepier. He would wake up in the middle of the night crying and coming to us and saying that there's something staring at him through the window. And now his room at the time was at ground level, and we had a front porch, and there was a street lamp right there at the doorway. The sidewalk coming there, so it lit up the whole front porch. And when I asked him to describe it, thinking that, maybe it was, like people like to prowl and like to look in, and he said that it had a black face, almost like nothing, and jagged teeth, and big, huge eyes. And it really creeped him out to the point where he wouldn't sleep in his room for the longest time. And yeah, it could have been, a kid's wild imagination, but it just seemed too close to home, per se, no pun intended, about how all these experiences they're sharing had one thing in common, and that was something trying to get into their bedroom window. And this something being a dark creature with funny eyes. and gaping mouth. And you often wonder, when does imagination run into reality?